Greetings and welcome again, StarSpace Chats. It's been a minute, but I'm here. This is our usually semi-weekly, but you know how the summer is. We take a break sometimes. This is the place where you're going to get all of your info for those entrepreneurial movers and shakers here in the Sooner State, both Oklahoma City, Tulsa, beyond, everything in between. The series is really meant to highlight those amazing people around the Oklahoma City entrepreneurial community and what they do. I am, as always, I hope so, I'm not changing, your host, Jeff Yenzer, the board secretary here at StarSpace46. We're a local co-working space positioned right at the corner of Sheridan and Klein Avenues in downtown Oklahoma City. We've been in operation since 2016, so if you've seen us before, there's probably a reason. We're kind of a staple here in a big concrete building. Please remember to slam that like button, share with anybody that you might happen to love or hate, drop a comment, even hit the little bell so that you know when new episodes drop and you don't have to keep checking back. It really helps us out, of course. And, you know, everybody coming out of the pandemic looking for a hybrid workplace, they might want to see what's going on around here. As usual, I try to bring somebody on that's either an entrepreneur, that's how you say that, or people that really help support that sort of community. And today, I definitely have somebody that does that here in Oklahoma City. He is the mayor of Oklahoma City and one of the few people that makes me feel short on a regular basis if we ever hang out. Mayor David Holt is my guest this week. Mayor, come on in.
Hello.
Hello. How are you, man?
I'm great. Thanks for having me on.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, it's, starting to move toward autumn, so the temperatures are coming down a little bit, and hopefully it means that that's patio weather and people can be safe outside, if they're in groups. But how are things? How's stuff going for you?
Good, really good. And I was told this was a comic book discussion, right? This is comic book chat that I'm coming on.
I will go on and on about comic books. And the more that I think, because you and I used to go to the same comic book store, I remember this kid who was a little bit older than me, maybe a year or two, but he was real tall. And I'm pretty sure it might have been you, because, it was New World Comics over on Meridian. So
could have been, yeah. New World Comics on Meridian, still there, I believe. I've kind of fallen out a little bit of my comic book knowledge, but that was where I was. You would have found me every day after school. Every Thursday after school. Thursday, of course, is when the comic books arrive. And that was where you would have found me all through my upbringing in the Putnam City Schools area of Northwest Oklahoma City. So I do know a little bit about your background there. Own a few of those, actually. I believe still way too many comic books in my possession that I have no idea what to do with now. But I recognize this is not actually a comic book chat. So I am more than happy to start talking a little bit about the state of our great city.
I suppose. It could have been a comic book chat. I could have talked about that all day long. But no, let's hear about how things are going here in OKC.
Well, all in all, really good. As you and I talk, obviously, we've had a little bit of a spike in COVID-19 that's got everybody a little cranky. And more importantly, it's really taxing our healthcare system. And that affects the vaccinated and unvaccinated alike. And that's kind of been my message the last few weeks, is that I fully recognize that vaccinated people felt as if they had done what they needed to do. And we had all kind of moved on with our lives. In June and July, I wasn't even carrying a mask in my car anymore. It just wasn't a part of my life. And then all of this has come roaring back almost exclusively among unvaccinated people. 94% of our hospitalizations right now are people who are unvaccinated. But the problem is that affects all of us because of that hospital situation, because all of us need to use hospitals regardless. So we have tried to mask up here in September, and we have certainly continued to encourage vaccinations. And we have seen the city rise to that. It's a bit of, we've been a little bit of a late bloomer, but now we are coming on hard, and we are actually at 75%, over 75% of the eligible residents of Oklahoma County have now had at least their first shot. That's 2 points above the national average. So we are definitely doing well on the vaccination front. We just got to keep it up, obviously get those second shots. And I think we'll have a much better October and November. But beyond COVID-19, because that is, I still believe that is a transitory thing. Oklahoma City is really, really kicking butt right now. Economically, second lowest unemployment in the country, 5 straight months of record sales tax checks, Sales tax may not mean a lot to regular folks. I just use it as an economic indicator in the sense that when sales tax receipts are high, that means that people are out and about shopping and things are happening in your community. So those are a couple of great examples of how we're seeing, the economy come back really to where it was before the pandemic, which was a really good place. We had the number one lowest unemployment in February of 2020, and now we're back to those numbers. 2.9% is our most recent. We're also seeing, obviously, is the continuing pipeline of cool projects that this city, really started 25 years ago, and it just continues with maps and then other things that have come as a result of maps. It seems as if every week I'm cutting a ribbon or breaking ground. 2 weeks ago, we opened the Homeland in Northeast Oklahoma City. That's a project in the works for 30 years to try and get a grocery store, a high-level grocery store in the Northeast quadrant to serve the food desert that had really grown around our historically African-American part of Oklahoma City. This week, we're opening First Americans Museum, $175 million, amazing Smithsonian quality, Disney World quality, whatever you consider to be the gold standard of presentation. That is what we have at First Americans Museum. I can't wait for everybody to see it. It's really going to be a truly unique, really kind of one of a kind draw here in Oklahoma City. We're transitioning this week into our new airport terminal. I mean, the list goes on and on. That's going to be really cool. That's got great artwork, great presentation for the city as our front door, new amenities for visitors, also more gates allowing us to continue to say yes to anybody who's willing to offer us a nonstop flight. So there's just so many cool things. Later this year, First National Center, that's a $200 million project the city's been a part of, restoring and reopening our mini Empire State Building here in downtown Oklahoma City. So there's just a lot of really cool things. And kind of the ultimate validation that we recently found out was that we were now the 22nd largest city, one of only 14 cities that have gained 100,000 people over the last decade. That news from the census really demonstrated and validated everything that we've been doing, because I think population growth is ultimately kind of the ultimate judge of a city's success. People vote with their feet in America, and their choice to live in Oklahoma City in record numbers over the last 10 years really demonstrates that we're doing something right. Sometimes people say, I don't want anybody else to move here. It's getting too crowded. And I understand that, but you can't build a place people want to live in without having people live in it. I mean, people are going to move here, and more I'm running into people. We used to be excited that we would have people who had stayed or people that were returning after leaving. Here's the thing I'm running into more and more are people that have no tie to Oklahoma City. Right. They didn't grow up here. This isn't where their parents live. They are just coming here because it is one of the hot new cities in America. And that didn't happen overnight. I mean, that's the culmination of 25 years of investments. But now that we have it, it's really feels like, as much as we've changed over the last 3 decades, that I think the next 10 years will just be even more so. I think we're just now finally realizing the benefits of all those improvements. So I think it's an exciting time. I mean, you'd expect me to say that. I'm the mayor. I'm kind of optimistic by nature, but nevertheless, I think everything I'm saying is factually accurate and true, and certainly captures really a continued renaissance in Oklahoma City.
Yeah, I would agree 100%. I get to see it from the business side, where I've been able to pick up new clients left and right because people are bringing their businesses here. Small companies also are trying to start growing here because, frankly, I tell a lot of people, if you can't make it in Oklahoma City or Oklahoma as a state, then maybe your business doesn't have the legs that you think it does, because you truly can, from a one-person entrepreneurial standpoint, that sole proprietor. You can start here and have the lowest barrier of entry, I feel, in the entire nation, and also the largest scale to potentially grow that. Because, as you pointed out, we just have more and more people coming here, and with the changes to the airport and more just, frankly, real estate getting gobbled up by people that see the value of coming from the coasts into a more centralized America that doesn't have to possibly worry about so many of the things that they had to do, where they were paying exorbitant rates for their rent or their mortgage. And now they can still enjoy amenities albeit, maybe one quick plane ride away, but they're still able to do everything that they were doing, and then figuring out that we have just as many awesome amenities here. So I would completely agree, as someone else who has been here for most of my life and gotten to watch the last 25 years really grow this city. It's been amazing to witness, and it's something I want to see for the next decade.
Yeah. I think you've well captured the hook that I always give people if I only have 30 seconds with somebody, what I say about Oklahoma City is we have an ease of living that you might expect in a smaller city. You're not going to spend your whole day in traffic. People are nice. I mean, it's just nice to live here. It's easy to live here. But we no longer have the trade-off that we used to have that you would have in a smaller city. We have all the amenities of a great American city, whether that be food, whether that be arts, culture, sports. We have it all now. And so it's kind of like a unique combination of the best of both worlds that I don't think 5 cities offer in the United States right now. There may be a time when we get so crowded and so popular that maybe that ease of living recedes, but that's not the case right now. We still have that unique combination in place. And that's ultimately what I try to sell people on living in, visiting, or doing business in Oklahoma City, is that it's just, you can go out of neat things to do in New York and LA and Dallas, but you're not going to have the same quality of life that you have here.
No, and I think that idea of ease of living is so important. And, for people that are our age, it's coming to a point where here they're ready to start businesses. And I mean, I've helped probably 3 friends throughout the pandemic that were miserable in their respective careers, but they had already amassed all of that knowledge and all of that experience. So to try to make a career change in your 40s is a bit terrifying, but they've all been able to transition and go into self-employment, being some form of consultant or running their own business version of what they had been doing, making someone else rich. And frankly, they were able to kick it off here in Oklahoma City and find immediate success, because it's a huge pool and people are willing, with that kind of small town mentality, they're willing to help somebody get started. They're willing to be those first clients and willing to be the people that pay a reasonable amount, knowing that it's going right back into the city. So I think that it truly is something that's unique, that in all of the American cities that I've traveled to, I don't see. And there's a reason that I don't move, even when in the past people have tried to pull me to coasts and things like that. I stay here. I've owned the house that I'm in since 2003. So I have no intention to leave it. I'll just continue renovating it, because, making $100,000 in this city versus making $100,000 in Dallas, LA, New York, Austin, Seattle, it's a completely different world. And success is reasonable and actually something that people can adhere to and create so much easier here in Oklahoma City. And I think that it really is that culmination of planning. It didn't happen overnight. This is not the Oklahoma City I remember in the 90s. And that's really a good thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Well said. Yeah.
So for people that don't know, I mean, you mentioned living, up in the Northwest area. Like what brought you to being where you are right now?
I was always interested in political science and just being a part of the group of people who were making decisions for whatever community I was in. I was 6th grade student council president. I was, Spirit vice president. I was sophomore class president. I was always those things. And so when I chose where to go to college, it was George Washington in Washington, D.C., where I majored in political science. So I've always worked in and around public service ever since. In D.C., I worked for the Speaker of the House, then I worked for President Bush, then I came back home. I ended up being my predecessor's chief of staff, Mayor Cornett, from about 06 to 10. And then I was elected to the state Senate from that kind of Putnam City area that in which I'd grown up, and served there for 8 years. So by that point, I mean, I had worked in, and served in the White House, the U.S. Capitol, the state Capitol, and City Hall. And contrary to what people may think, I found that City Hall was really the most rewarding place. It was closest to the people, and you could really see your impact. And so when I had the opportunity to run for mayor, because Mayor Cornett was ready to move on after 14 years, I jumped at it and was thrilled to do so, and thrilled to have this opportunity to serve this city that I love at such a critical time. So that's kind of how I ended up here. In our form of government, both as a senator and as a mayor, I have another job actually. That usually surprises people, but they don't pay mayors a living wage. So I'm actually at my other job today, speaking to you. But nevertheless, you're always the mayor, and that's certainly the identity I recognize that most people associate with me. But it's certainly it's a lot to be the mayor, to have another job that's essentially also full time, and to have, in my case, a family and two relatively small kids. And so, it's a busy life, but it's very rewarding. And I love Oklahoma City, and I think it's a great time in our city's history. And I feel very honored to get to be a part of it.
Yeah, and it's been amazing to watch you work, honestly. It's been fun because there's something, and maybe it's just us getting older, but it's something when you start seeing somebody that is around your age being able to make such changes and being at that forefront. It reminds you that so can you, and there's something for everybody, and getting older isn't necessarily a bad thing.
Well, also, I think you're expressing something that I often say to people about Oklahoma City as well, which is, I'm the son of my dad was a school teacher. My mom was a social worker. I'm not, my dad wasn't the mayor or anything. I mean, I didn't have no connections to this. And I'm the youngest mayor in 100 years. So I came to this relatively quickly.
Right.
And so I say all that to say something about Oklahoma City generally, I think, allows people to make a difference pretty fast if they just want to put in the work. We're not very elitist in that sense. You don't have to have been the son or daughter of so-and-so to break in, something that I think is more true in older cities. And we've always just had sort of that kind of pioneer spirit since 1889. It's very egalitarian here. And so not everybody has to be the mayor, but I find that people can break in and be very impactful in nonprofits that they're interested in, whether it be artistic, whether it be charitable, at a pretty rapid pace if they just want to work, And similarly with the kind of stuff that you guys do there, I mean, I think people can make an impact in the world of entrepreneurship pretty quickly here as well.
Absolutely. And there really is. There's just air and opportunity. Seize some of it, because all it really takes is to get your name out there. And Oklahoma City, like I said, it's a small enough town that, one, don't burn your bridges. People are going to know. But also it's very easy to create those networks and to bump into the same people, which the value in that and the value of being remembered for what you do it's undeniable. And that's how so many people can go from what they might have been doing in another city, just miring through their 20s, that they could actually see quite a bit of momentum throughout their 20s and 30s and continue that and possibly be able to retire early. And people aren't thinking in that long-term aspect when they think about Oklahoma City. But this is you don't have to retire to Florida. You'd want to retire to someplace with a lower cost of living and the ability to continue to enjoy that lifestyle that you were used to. And I think that that's where the next 30 years, perhaps, of Oklahoma City begins to really take shape, as people that are our age and younger start to see the value of staying in a place like this.
Yeah. For sure. We really need to sign you up for the Convention and Visitors Bureau, but
hey, I have free time. Why not? So what's on the horizon? What's coming up for you, for the city? What's next?
Well, for me personally, I do have to recall occasionally my reelection is coming up in about 4 months. It's in February. I won't tell people how to vote. I think it's implied how I feel they should vote, and certainly I want to make sure people show up. I think our numbers are strong, both personally and for the direction of the city. But we just need people to vote, especially because it's a unique election time. People aren't used to voting on February 8th. So put that on your calendar. But bigger picture for the rest of the city, obviously the implementation of MAPS 4 is kind of the biggest thing that will continue to be on the horizon in the years ahead. That's $1 billion of investment in our city. We actually just adopted the implementation plan this week, which is kind of the order of things. And so now we really know how this is going to play out over the next decade. And it's exciting to think of those 16 projects and the different impacts that they'll make in their specific policy areas. But many of them are very life-changing, especially this package having been so focused on neighborhood and human needs. It's going to be really fun to see, and I'll enjoy being a part of that. I recognize it's such a long process. Somebody else may cut some of my ribbons someday, but that's quite all right. We plant trees so our grandchildren have shade. But that's the thing that excites me the most in the years ahead. But there's a million other things going on, and it's just again, as I said at the beginning of this discussion, it's such a fun time in Oklahoma City with so much momentum and just so many people feeling pride and so many people around the country discovering us, and feels like that's been going on for a while, but it has certainly continued in these last few years.
Yeah, totally. And a final question I always ask every one of my guests is just how may we as the StarSpace46 community help you or the things that you're doing? Because that's important to us as well.
Yeah, well, thanks. I think just keep doing what you're doing. I mean, you're creating entrepreneurs, you're creating future businesses here in our city, you're training people in the workforce of today and tomorrow. I mean, one thing that I hate, that I really feel we've got to continue to work on is I think we just need more people familiar with coding and everything that comes along with that, and so I think you guys play a role in the growth of our tech economy, but I know you go beyond that and you're really just about entrepreneurship, and so we certainly want to encourage that as well. I think as a community, we've historically punched a little bit below our weight in terms of startups and entrepreneurship. So, I mean, I quickly, and many others quickly think of Starship when we think about that kind of work here in the city. And I appreciate that you guys have been at it for years, and I know you'll continue to be at it. And I think just continuing to diversify our economy and continuing to create that community that you're creating. And my suspicion is you're already seeing more and more growth and more people interested in what you're doing, and people from other parts of the country beginning to circulate in your halls there. And I think that's a great thing. So we want to keep building a city worthy of what you guys are doing, and that's part of it as well. And we'll do our part, but you guys just keep doing what you're doing, and you'll do yours.
Excellent. And I appreciate that. I fully intend, I have a client visit in Miami that I'm flying out of Oklahoma City this Saturday. So I can't wait to look around, because it's the first flight I've taken in probably 2 years. So
really? Oh, wow. Well, I think you will go through the new security. It is like transitioning right now. So I think you'll see it. That'll be great.
That'll be awesome. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Well, Mayor Holt, it's always a pleasure to get a chance to talk to you. Hopefully next time we'll do it in person, because I love people that notice the height disparity, because people get used to my hulking frame, and then I go and I look up at somebody, and it's amazing to watch people just look at me, look at you. But man, have a wonderful day, and we'll talk soon, because there's so much on the horizon, truly.
Well, you too. Thanks for having me on.
Wonderful. Take care. And that was Mayor Holt. I mean, it's always something moving and shaking here in Oklahoma City. And I think that if there's anyone that is on the pulse of it, it's probably got to be him. I mean, it's kind of in his job title, if you know what I mean. But thank you all for joining us for yet another StarSpace chat. Please, again, share this with your friends and join our community. Maybe you want to be a full-time or part-time member here. You can always visit StarSpace46.com. It's a newly remodeled website that we just hit live. So you can come by, say hi. If you come by on a Wednesday, not only should you wear pink, but you should probably enjoy free co-working from 9 to 5. That's 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Feel free to pop in. Just work out of your, not house. It has been a confining space for you, perhaps, for the last year and a half. So get out, meet some new people, and maybe create that new entrepreneurial effort that you've been thinking about, or at least ask some questions from people that have done it before. You can always schedule a tour of our facility or book a meeting. You can maybe even find that office space. We're very short on them, but we do have them. And you can always find our custom merch at merch46.com. But as always, thanks to Rodney with Kamalti Strategies. He produces these episodes and makes me look about as good as you could ever make me. I mean, I could probably use more hair and makeup. Well, maybe just makeup. I've always been and will always hopefully be your host, Yenzer from Yenzer Consulting Services and StarSpace46. I'll see you next time. And until then, be safe wherever life takes you. Bye now.